Two major changes were announced by Premier David Eby this week in the areas of housing supply that are going to affect real estate value, and in today's video we're going to talk about them both. Real quick, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Hassan. I'm a real estate agent in the Vancouver area, and I make educational real estate content as well as content to help you make your move to Vancouver or its surrounding cities. So if that sounds interesting to you, subscribe to this channel and make sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss a future video. So the first change that Premier David Eby announced this week to address the housing crisis is in regards to housing supply, and it's called the Housing Supply Act. And basically what it is it's going to give the provincial government, David Eby and his team, more power over municipal approvals of new housing at the city level. The issue that this is addressing are the lengthy delays in approval times at the municipal level for development projects, and this has essentially put us in a situation where cities are not creating enough housing fast enough, and hence we're in this situation where housing supply is in a crisis state. What this Housing Supply Act is going to do is it's going to give the provincial government power to set municipal level targets on housing supply. And what they're going to do is they're going to choose 8 to 10 communities to start, and they're going to give them housing targets to meet. And if they don't meet those targets, there are going to be consequences at the municipal level from the provincial government. Now, Premier David Eby had inferred that this is something that he was going to do. He was essentially threatening to take away some of the housing supply powers from the municipal governments and saying that the provincial government was going to take that on. This is a bit of a happy medium where he's going to choose cities and areas that, based on projected growth, need the most housing supply, need the most housing stock. He's going to set targets for the cities to get approvals. And I think what we're going to see now are cities and municipalities, they're going to be more motivated to make sure the approval process happens quicker. They're going to be less inclined to decline projects. And I think it's only going to help the overall housing supply situation in the Vancouver area. Now, some might think that it's not a great idea to give the provincial government even more power over things that happen at the municipal level, but I think one way to look at it is our current model, our current system is not working, it's broken. We're seeing a lot of projects not get approved. We're seeing a lot of back and forth between cities and developers, and I know from personal experience working with developers, they're pulling their hair out at times, trying to get, for example, a high-rise project done, and it's taking them 6-7 years to go through the entire process, and we're just lagging so far behind on the supply side that, I agree that it's time to pull away some power at the municipal level and shift it over to the provincial government, and that way the municipalities, the cities, they're more motivated to get the job done. Myself personally, I used to work in sales, and I always had a target over my head. And of course, besides being self-motivated to hit the target, you have additional motivation to make it happen. So I think it's a long time coming. I want to commend Premier David Eby for launching something like this, because obviously it's going to ruffle feathers at the city level, at the municipal level. Now, before I get into the second change, and in my opinion, this is a larger change, I did want to mention, if you enjoy this longer form real estate content, I have launched a podcast. It's called The House Hustle with Hassan, and it's in the description box. I'm going to try and move my real estate content that's a little bit longer, between 15 and 20 minutes, to the podcast platform to be respectful of your viewership and your viewing time, and try and keep my YouTube videos a little bit more concise. So if that's interesting to you, check out the podcast. So the second change, and I believe this to be more major, is the removal of rental restrictions on strata properties. To give some background, buildings that were built after 2010, essentially, they don't typically have rental restrictions unless they are short-term rental restricted, but there are a lot of older buildings that have rental restrictions in a couple of ways. Either rentals are not allowed entirely, or rentals are capped at a certain limit. For example, 10% of all total units can be rented. So 100 unit strata, you could only have 10 units rented at any given time. So Premier David Eby, in order to increase rental supply and rental stock, he's essentially putting forth to remove these rental restrictions. What it's going to do immediately for the rental pool is there's about 3,000 units that are sitting vacant in rental restricted buildings, which David Eby expects are going to open up now and be put into the market immediately. Now, the way they have this data is through the BC speculation and vacancy tax. So they have these owners that have cited rental restrictions as being the reason why they can't rent out these units and put it into rental stock. So the initial thought is that this is going to create additional stock immediately of about 2,900 to 3,000 units. Now, one of the unintended consequences of this, and this is where we're going to touch on real estate value, is I believe this is going to affect the floor of Vancouver real estate, the entry-level condo, and push those prices upwards. I say that because while I'm working with my clients, for example, first-time buyers, if we're very budget conscious, etc., we're often targeting buildings that have rental restrictions on them, either rentals not allowed or rentals capped. And the reason for that is they tend to trade or sell at the lowest prices on the real estate spectrum, because anytime you take a pool of buyers, in this case the investors, and you get them disinterested in a product, or you make it so they can't be interested in a product, it pushes the demand down and it helps keep that price stable at the bottom end of the spectrum. So now when we remove rental restrictions, essentially what we're doing is we're opening up this product for the rental investor. And in fact, this type of product, in my opinion, is ideal for someone who wants to pick up a rental property, because they're typically in older buildings, these rental restrictions, and if it's well managed and well maintained, again, you're picking it up at better value. As a rental investor, you don't really want something shiny and new because you may not actually be able to recoup that in rent. So now what we're doing is we're opening up a new market for that entry-level condo. We're adding investors to the mix. My opinion, it's going to increase demand at the floor of real estate, and it's going to push prices upwards. Now, there is a third change that also was announced, and it has to do with age restrictions. So some of these buildings will also have age restrictions. What Premier David Eby has said is that any age restrictions that are not for 55 plus are going to be removed. So they're going to preserve 55 plus in order to maintain a seniors only type of building, but other age restrictions will be removed. I don't think this is going to have a massive impact because there's not as many buildings that do have the age restrictions, but those are going to be removed. So these changes that we're talking about today, they are going to have a significant impact on supply and, again, value of real estate. If you are a seller right now and you live in a rental restricted building, once this is formally approved, congratulations, because I would say that the value of your property is going to go up essentially immediately, just for the fact that you now have brought a second pool of buyers that could be interested in your property. So if you're okay with living around tenants, I think this is very positive news for you. If you're a buyer in this market, I think there's still an opportunity to target these types of properties because the value is not going to shift immediately. It still needs to go through its approval process. So now you have an opportunity to purchase an entry-level condo that's basically going to give you the option to rent it out in the future. To put it simply, real estate is an illiquid asset, meaning that you can't dispose of it as quickly as you could cash or stocks. So anytime you add flexibility to an illiquid asset, you're increasing its value. So there you have it. Those are the big changes that are coming to BC real estate that are going to affect the market in a significant way. If you gained any value or you learned something in this video, it'd be awesome if you could hit the like button, because what that does is it shares this video out with more people who can also learn from it. If you're considering a move in or out of Vancouver and you need my help, all my contact info is in the description box below. I'd be so happy to help you out. But outside of that, thank you again so much for taking time to watch this video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.